Right in this video, I want to talk about what I'm calling the curse of passive income. I don't, I haven't seen too many people in my industry talk about this, but I think it's something that more people than just me have felt and gone through and stuff. And for this is kind of for my like the younger version of myself, the me that was like chasing passive income like 10, 15 years ago and thought like that's the ultimate goal, but it didn't really, and I don't even know I could think too much past that because I was just used to where I was at, which was like trading time for money. And I didn't really know what was on the other side of the passive income. And so I'm shooting this for people that think they may want passive income or have some kind of idea of what they think it might be like. And I want to give you some insight into what it might be like. I'm not saying it will be like this for you because some people, they're just wired differently. They process information differently. So perhaps if they had this passive income, which is essentially what retirement is, you've got some sort of a nest egg that you're living off of that spits off some sort of like dividends or returns to where it's giving you like consistent cash flow so that you can pay all your ongoing expenses, bills, and things like that. But I was able to create that for myself a lot faster than 20, 30, 40 years. I'm not even 40 years old yet. So I was able to create this for myself at about 31. And honestly, I could have done it sooner if I just had a little bit more discipline and confidence in the things that I was doing because everything I've ever done has worked pretty much as aside from like some various like MLMs and biz ops that like were either like total scams or collapsed or whatever or shut down by the FTC or STC. But the things that I put effort in that were like a result of my own effort, that were things that I could a little bit more control, that were actual real, you know, sustainable products and services and stuff. Almost all those things have worked. But you know, it doesn't take as long as you might think to get to this place of like passive income or somewhat sustainable passive income. And so I just want you to be aware of like what might happen for you. Like if you're someone who has got all these like hopes and dreams and you think that's going to like sustain you for years or years, like the rest of your life, maybe it will, but something else that might happen, especially if you're like a solopreneur, is that you might like what I did was I kind of optimized things, automated things, and just got more and more into like isolation. Like I had people that I was connected to in the industry. I had friends that I could meet up with in person, and I went to like masterminds and networking events like that too. And I've great family and stuff like that too. But for the bulk of my day, I wasn't around people, so that over time it kind of I felt it took a couple years for it to catch up to me, but I was like felt like it became more weird and socially awkward and couldn't relate to people as well as I could have prior to that. I wasn't like as up to date on like local happenings and stuff, even though that stuff's not super duper important to me. It's just kind of, I feel like helps you more relatable to the average person or whatever. But yeah, it didn't take very long for me to kind of close that gap on my income that I was pulling from my job. And then once that happens, if you're making a little bit more than you need to, then you can, if you have any debt, you can wipe that out. And then if you wipe that out, then you're not paying like interest and stuff. If you have any of that, then as long as that amount keeps coming in each month, you have enough for your expenses, and you have enough for to like play and experiment. So if you want to travel, and you travel and did all the things you wanted do travel wise, and then you've kind of dabbled and experimented, you know, some marketing experiments that you want to do, and you've, I don't know, you just like tried and experimented with things, you might eventually get to the point where you just kind of see the same patterns over and over again, and it kind of gets boring, and you're like, man, I have, cash flow coming in, I'm healthy, I've done some things, I have a lot of free time, and I'm still pretty young. So I've got like, probably, unless something tragic happens to me, I've got many, many more decades. And it's a lot of time. And so just kind of something to think about. I don't have any like super solution because everybody is different, but I will say what I've learned from my own journey is I kind of did less and less and less and less to the point where it's like I was just basically eating, bathing, sleeping, and then just did a lot of things that were like, and then like exercise a little bit. But I just stopped doing things that kind of like stimulated me or challenged me because I had created an environment. Oh, this is a gradual process over time where everything was easy and everything was automated for the most part. Like all bills and stuff, just they were, food was automated and stuff. Bills were automated, and then like everything was just easy and taken care of, and that makes you like way, 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 way more unrelatable to the average person. I guess that's what a lot of you know celebrities are and become because it's not that they can't relate to you and stuff because they were probably once where you were and like you're with like whatever society and routines and stuff like that. But when you get to a certain level, a lot of times you you just adopt different habits because you do have a different schedule, you do have a different lifestyle, you do have more like responsibility or different responsibilities and obligations, and so you may need to hire like a private chef or a trainer or be places at certain times or use private jets and things like that. So you just kind of you're existing on the planet at the same time with other people, but you just have a totally different lifestyle. And sometimes it's not because it's like you're all rich and better and different than other people. It's just like it's the at a certain level, it's the only thing that makes sense. So I guess another thing I'm kind of want to relay is that passive income will, especially getting there faster than you're probably like quote supposed to with the mainstream, like they seem to have a lot of people on the same kind of hamster wheel and journey where it's like stay at your job for this many years, and then if you make it to the end of like 60s or 70s, or some people even have to work until they're like 80 or whatever, then they've dangled this thing called like retirement where you can kind of like do a little bit less. But some people never even make it. You definitely don't have to, with all the advancements in technology and stuff, you don't have to, it definitely doesn't have to take that long. But you're going to have to think about what are you going to do when you get there anyway, because you know I used to think, why do people become like greeters at Walmart? And some people maybe they do come back because they need the money and stuff, but I think the other half of them are probably coming back because they're just bored. You need something to do and stuff. You need something ideally that challenges you, but you definitely need something to do with your time because the more you sit still, the more like you kind of just die, And so this idea, especially in the like make money online space, of like sitting on a beach somewhere, relaxing every day and like sipping cocktails and stuff, it's I mean, you can do that for a little bit, but it gets old really, really quick, especially if you're kind of in isolation or even if you've got like a buddy. It's like you just if you're not producing something, life gets a little stale. And that's something that I don't think I ever heard too much until I experienced it. Maybe other people are saying it, but a different way to position it and relay this information is it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to like reward yourself. It's okay to pause. But if you stop, especially if you stop for too long, like it'll catch up with you. And if like that's unnatural, energy just has to keep moving. Money is just another form of energy, and so it needs to be keep getting exchanged and stuff like that. And so, that's just something whatever the opposite of looking forward to. It's like it's something that something to look out for when on the other side of like this passive income because yeah, it's like you can continue if you have, let's just say $4,000 to $10,000 coming in each month, and that's pretty stable each month, whatever it is you're promoting or whatever, and that produces that for years and years. Not saying that that's gonna last for you know the rest of your life, but like that's enough to like allow you to most people to breathe for several years and then like kind of figure out, okay, what am I going to do with all my overflow, all my extra money, and you can like pour that into different vehicles that will uh, to invest it that will multiply it even further. But you just got to figure out some way to kind of get motivated to keep going and stuff. So yeah, just something to look out for. This isn't like a super duper joyful topic or whatever, but it's just the reality, like it, and something that again I don't hear a lot of people talking about or mentioning, and maybe it's because I don't know, maybe they it's not a super sexy topic, but it's a real one, and it's a reality of what the result of what can actually happen from all this success that a lot of these other creators are out there, they're dangling this carrot of like you can make all this money and you can do all these things and you can get all these possessions, and those things are again they're like fun, cool, exciting and stuff, but number one you have to ask like who are they really for? Are you doing that for you? Are you doing that for like other people? Because the only people that are really impressed by that kind of thing are the people that don't have those things or don't know how to get them. The people that know how to get them, they're not usually flaunting them and stuff. And so it's interesting, because it's like that's the thing that gets a lot of attention. But again, it's like who you have to kind of think what kind of attention are you getting? It's usually the people that never had those things and probably never going to get those things. But no, just want to also can give you some hope and reinforce that like all these things are possible. Passive income is possible, and there's all sorts of ways to create it. Traditionally people would do it with real estate, but now with all the internet technologies and stuff, there's all sorts of different ways. And the way that I did it was through affiliate marketing and combining that with SEO as a traffic source. So, why I like that combination is affiliate marketing has been around for a very long time on the internet, and almost since the beginning of the internet as we know it, we've had affiliate programs, which is just you're getting a commission, you're getting paid to promote and recommend other people's products and services. And then SEO has been around pretty much since the beginning of the internet as well with search engines. That's the way that information is cataloged online. And so SEO, people, it still exists. It's kind of changing form now with AI and ChatGPT and stuff, but it's still search. There's just a different medium, it's a different platform. But Google is still around. People search on YouTube as well. People even search on TikTok and stuff. So things are kind of they're changing shape, but the fundamentals don't change, and they've never changed. It's just the platforms change. Now with all the short videos and things like that, that wasn't a thing several years ago. That's a new medium that has been adopted, but the fundamentals don't change. So that's why I really like this process. It's something that anybody can do, anybody can understand, And with a little bit of discipline and consistency, you can get results like the ones you see on this page. I've This is what took me from making less than $20,000 a year at a job to making over six figures a year and pretty much passive income after a teeny bit of effort. And we're talking about weeks or months, not years. So like when I quit my job in 2016, the before the end of the very next year, I had built up a multiple streams of income that totaled or surpassed six figures that year, and then next year doubled, and the next year continued and stuff. And really simple steps just over and over and over again. So you don't have to be some super ninja master to get similar results. So, and that's what did it for me. You know, there, like I said, there's lots of different ways to make money. There's lots of different ways to make like passive income or semi-passive income. This is the one that did it for me. And one of the elements that I like the most about it is the sustainability. I was proud of myself when I came up with this alliteration to describe it, like simple, scalable, sustainable. And I'll break that down for a second for you. So like, why is this important to me? Well, if it works but it's not simple, then that doesn't help most people. If it's super complex and it's like you have to have some kind of advanced degree just to understand how to what it is, what's going on, or how to implement, not very cool. You're going to eliminate a lot of people from being able to copy that recipe and achieve some more success. So it needs to be simple. But if it's simple and not scalable, well, that's not very exciting either. It's cool for the people that are trying to go from like $0 to $1, $0 to like $10 a day. But even if it's like it gets up to $100 a day, that's cool for a lot of people. But if you're like maxed out, if there's some kind of max limit of somehow where you can't make more than that, well, that's not really super exciting either because you're not going to be able to stay with that for too long. Inflation happens, prices go up. So, like, you know, $3,000-ish a month, that's great for the beginner. But, as you have like family and you want to do other things, you're going to need methods for making more money. So, if you can't make more and more and more, then that's people are going to eventually do something else. So it needs to be scalable. And then what's sustainable, this is one of the most important ones to me because if it's simple and it's scalable, but it's going to go away in 12 months, well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to keep starting over. That's like a pet peeve of mine. So this is the trifecta and like combination that I look for these days: something that's simple, something that's scalable, and something that's sustainable. And if it has all those things, then that's it's a something that I'll like consider. And this is a process that meets all those criteria. So pretty cool. This is what works for me. This is what gives me peace and gives me stability. And this has worked for a lot of other people. These are some of my success stories and students. So you can check out some of their videos here. And if you're still searching for something that works, that it's going to work for you, this works and this will work. Whether or not it like is for you is to be up to you to decide, but it is a process that works. It's a recipe that works, but it's either for you or not. But if you put in the effort, you will get a result. And the more effort you put in, the more data you'll get. And just like it's not like the better you get, but the better results you'll get for less and less and less effort, because you'll start to see certain patterns and be like, oh, these are the kinds of products that work. And that way you won't have to do as much guessing. And um, yeah. And so hopefully you got some value out of this video. It's just kind of like a warning, something to be on the lookout for, because this process can happen really fast. To me, I thought that like retirement or making enough money to pluck myself out of the 9 to 5, grind system, I thought it was going to take a long time. And I mean, to be honest, if I had to go back in time, I could have, like, I moved out to Austin in the fall of 2010, and if I was a little bit more disciplined, I had attempted to set this kind of system up for myself in 2012. And if I was disciplined, which I wasn't, unfortunately, at the time, then it would have happened by then. So that was me just, going all different types of directions to find, super lost and not sure what would work. But I found something that if I would have stuck with it, that would have worked well enough to like pluck me out of my job just 2-ish years in. But I didn't do my part and follow through on that. So it took me a couple more years. Then I kind of settled on SEO. And then, 4 years later, I, you know, built this course and, followed this process. And that was what did it for me. So instead of like teaching courses, I got my success and built my foundation using affiliate SEO. And then, the course is just what I put together to package and teach what I was doing with others. But it doesn't like, again, once you kind of make enough, you're bringing in enough passively to like justify quitting your 9 to 5, life can get better really quick. So it's not something, once it happens, like a lot can happen fast. And then that just sort of becomes your new reality. And so, like, even though I've distantly familiar with what my life was like before this, just 1-2 years into like quote working for yourself or not working very much for yourself is really just like playing for yourself, and then that play produces money. Like a, a lot of things about the way you see the world and your mindset and stuff are going to start to change. And I guess one thing I could say positive about this, or give you a direction, the positive spin and the curse of passive income is what to do with your time. It definitely don't stop moving, don't stop being active. And this is the time when you've probably heard all these quotes and stuff about like mindset is more important, is the most important thing. Eventually, like you may go through some sort of like dark night of the soul, which you may have heard that before. It may not make sense right now. It will eventually make sense, and you'll probably experience what that feels like. I would just start immersing yourself in, mindset kind of material courses. Probably books would be the cheapest thing. Pacing yourself, taking time, being patient and stuff. Just reading some of the best books on like mindset and stuff and how your mind works and stuff, because those, I remember in the beginning of my internet marketing journey, I would people that were years ahead of me would say things that would shed light on like, mindset is the most important thing. I was like, that's cool. I thought they meant just like thinking positive, which that's like the very light version of it, but it's much deeper than that. And I was just like, well, I'll that sounds good. I'll just keep a positive attitude. Just don't be negative and like give me the money. And like, once I get the money, I'll figure out mindset. And I almost feel like I, I don't know. Everybody's brain's different. I don't know how you can develop and strengthen the mindset if you don't have a little money for first, or if you don't have money and then like lose it, and then you kind of understand that money is important, but it's not really real, but the energy that it represents is real. And then like you need to strengthen your mind in order to like attract it back. Like you'll start to understand eventually some of just this mindset piece of it, and like just how powerful you really are, and what you really are. Because you'll probably go down this like, everything leads back to like spirituality and like figuring out why you're here, stuff like that. But this great creating this passive income is a great first step, because it can un lay the foundation to give you the time and give you the resources like to explore these other type questions that you probably haven't had a lot of time or resources to explore because you've been so preoccupied by like making money just to eat and just for to get shelter and things like that and just to provide. Well, once you've got all your basic needs covered and they're covered with like passive or semi-passive income, well, now you've got all your time and you've got money come in, so you can actually begin to just do more of the things that you're interested in and that you want to do and that require like money, time, and resources, but you don't need to make an instant ROI on. You can go travel, you can go walk on a trail, you can go ride dirt bikes, you can go on a cruise, you can go read 100 books in a year, that you're really interested in because you have the time now and books are very inexpensive, or buy the Audible edition of it or something. So yeah, just some things to think about. But there's you know not everything is like sunshine and rainbows forever and ever once you have passive income, because it really eventually you're just gonna have be faced with like you're just gonna have to look in the mirror and faced with the reality of like who am I really and stuff, because you're gonna have a lot of time and there's so many people that are not on this like passive income frequency. They're in different seasons of their life, and some people maybe working until their very day that they die and stuff. So some people never have the opportunity to press pause on life and really just kind of sit around and be able to think and explore and read and learn and network with people and ask some of these deeper questions that are probably somewhere in your mind and your soul that you've never even had the chance to like arrange, articulate and stuff. But once you have a lot of time, you'll start some of those questions will start coming to the surface, and you'll have the resources to kind of pursue, uh, explore those rabbit holes and stuff. So it's possible. It didn't have to take forever, and it didn't have to be kind of like a curse forever in this. You don't have to be in this dark night of the soul forever, but it's probably eventually going to get to a place where, since I feel like achieving passive income way before most people ever do it, it's going to like trigger some questions in you and have you start to kind of like question the whole nature of reality and stuff. And there's a lot more information out there now than there used to be just even 10 years ago, of people that are like waking up and stuff. So there's a whole lot of rabbit holes to explore and stuff. But yeah, don't get too lost in it. But there's a lot of things to explore and learn more about and stuff. But and money is just like the first piece of the puzzle. So once you get some, I would recommend also just don't stop completely. Whatever it took to get you there, keep putting in a little bit of effort just to maintain it, because if you don't, over time that passive-ish income will get less and less and less and less passive, and the amount will get smaller and smaller and smaller if you don't do a little bit of things to at least maintain it. Even if it's you go from 100% effort to like down to 10%. 10% is better than zero. So those are a couple of things to consider. And then I'll be looking there. I can do a whole nother video on like different more stable and evergreen like passive income streams, like where money eventually winds up. Because like as stable as this strategy and method is, there are like more secure vehicles to pour some of that money into, and I would explore what those are. Like, where do the wealthy people invest their money? This is I mean, this can create a great lifestyle for most people, but if you want to have that like F you like can't ever touch my money kind of money, then you need to look into ways to like in different vehicles to like to protect that money once you've got it in your possession and stuff. Things like whole life policies and trusts and things like that. So those are some things to explore once you have the money coming in, so that it's not so exposed in personal bank account and things like that. So anyway, a lot of information, but in short or in summary here, it's there are there's some things to consider on the other side of passive income, because it's totally possible. It doesn't have to take forever. It most likely will not take you as long as you think, if you just put a little bit of discipline and consistency in it. And what I mean by that is, like, just commit to like 6 months, even if you just do a little bit each day. Doesn't have to be a lot, just do a little bit each day for like 6 months. Even if you take a break on the weekends, like 5 days a week, 6 months, you're going to get some results. And if you're looking for a process to help you get those results, one that's proven and been proven for years and works, you can check out my course. That's one that I can confidently point you to that will get you some results, and has worked for a lot of people. So hopefully you got some value out of this video. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next one.